Introduce Eleanor Hale, a brilliant but overworked young CEO of a billion-dollar tech company, who suddenly collapses from a rare and fatal blood disease. Doctors and specialists worldwide try to save her, but hope begins to fade. Introduce Jack Carter, a humble single dad and decorated war veteran, who quietly works long hours to provide for his young daughter. His past is marked with scars of war, but his spirit remains unbroken. When all donors fail, Jack's rare blood type becomes the only hope to save Eleanor. A tense hospital scene unfolds as his blood transfusion miraculously stabilizes her. Their worlds, once miles apart, suddenly collide. Eleanor recovers, but more than her body begins to heal. She sees in Jack the strength, humility, and heart that her world of power and wealth never gave her. Jack's daughter brings unexpected warmth into Eleanor's life. As Eleanor regains her life, she discovers love where she least expected. Jack, once her savior, becomes her partner in life. Their story inspires millions that true wealth lies not in power, but in kindness, sacrifice, and love. Eleanor Hale was a name whispered with awe in every boardroom and business magazine, the youngest and most unstoppable CEO in the country, a woman who had turned a startup dream into a billion-dollar empire through intellect, discipline, and relentless drive. But success had come at a cost: to her sleepless nights, her skipped meals, the endless chase for perfection that slowly eroded her health. Late one night, while the city slept under a blanket of silver light, Eleanor sat alone in her corner office at Hale Tech Tower, the glow of screens reflecting off her weary eyes as she reviewed yet another contract. Her head throbbed, her heart raced, and she told herself she could push through one more hour. But the human body has limits even ambition cannot conquer. Her vision blurred, a sharp pain shot through her chest, and before she could call for help, the world went dark as she collapsed beside her desk. Security found her moments later, her smartwatch having triggered an emergency alert, and within minutes she was rushed to the hospital. The news spread like wildfire: the Iron CEO has fallen. Headlines screamed across every platform. Employees held their breath, and investors panicked. But inside the sterile white walls of her hospital room, all the power and wealth in the world meant nothing. Eleanor's body was failing due to a rare, life-threatening blood condition that none of the doctors had ever seen progress so fast. Specialists from around the world were called in, countless blood samples tested, but every match failed. Her assistant cried in the hallway, her board argued over control of the company, and Eleanor drifted in and out of consciousness, whispering fragments of her dreams, fighting for life without even knowing if she would open her eyes again. The world admired her as a symbol of strength, but in that moment, she was just a fragile woman at the mercy of fate. Miles away, across the city, a man named Jack Carter started his day like any other. A single father and a veteran, Jack lived a quiet, humble life with his 8-year-old daughter Lily. His days were spent at construction sites, his nights cooking simple dinners and reading bedtime stories to his little girl. He carried the invisible scars of war, memories of loss, sacrifice, and survival, but he never let the darkness win because Lily was his light. One morning, as they walked past the subway, he noticed a blood donation van and a poster that read, "Emergency donors needed. Save a life today." Without hesitation, Jack stepped forward. He didn't ask who it was for. He just rolled up his sleeve and said, "Take what you need." When the nurse saw his blood results, she froze. A few phone calls later, Jack was sitting in a hospital office being told that his blood type was one of the rarest in existence and a perfect genetic match for a patient who might not live through the night. The doctor explained that the patient was Eleanor Hale, the CEO everyone was talking about. Jack blinked, surprised but unmoved by her fame. "If my blood can save her," he said simply, "then let's do it." Within an hour, he was seated in a transfusion chair, tubes connecting him to a woman he had never met. Eleanor lay unconscious beside him, pale as snow, her breath shallow. As his blood began to flow into her veins, Jack watched quietly, his rough hands folded on his lap. The room hummed with machines and the faint rhythm of beeping monitors, and for the first time in days, those beeps began to stabilize. The color slowly returned to Eleanor's cheeks, her heart rate steadied, and the doctors exchanged hopeful glances. It was working. Jack felt weak, lightheaded, but deeply peaceful. He had spent years fighting battles in deserts and cities, but this quiet act of saving Samyania felt like his truest victory. When the transfusion ended, he stood to leave, glancing once more at the woman who unknowingly now carried his strength within her. He didn't expect gratitude or recognition, he just wanted to go home to Lily. 2 days later, Eleanor opened her eyes to soft sunlight and the gentle hum of machines. Her mind was foggy, her throat dry. The doctor leaned over her and smiled. "Welcome back, Ms. Hale, you made it." She blinked slowly, her lips barely forming words. "How?" The doctor hesitated, then said, "A donor, a man named Jack Carter. He saved you." The name meant nothing to her, but the weight of the words did. For the first time in years, she felt something beyond control and achievement as she felt gratitude, fragile and unfamiliar. In the days that followed, as she regained her strength, she learned more about the man who had saved her. A single dad, a veteran, an ordinary man who had done an extraordinary thing. She couldn't stop thinking about it. While her company buzzed about her miraculous recovery, Eleanor's thoughts kept drifting back to the quiet donor whose blood now pulsed through her veins. When she finally asked to meet him, Jack agreed, though he arrived nervous, wearing his old jacket and unsure why someone so powerful wanted to see him. When he stepped into her hospital room, their eyes met for the first time. Eleanor smiled weakly. "You're Jack Carter." He nodded. "Yes, ma'am. Guess we're kind of related now." She laughed softly, the sound breaking the sterile stillness. "You saved my life," she said sincerely. "I don't even know how to thank you." Jack shrugged. "You don't have to. I just did what anyone should." But Eleanor knew that wasn't true. Not everyone would. There was a warmth in his eyes, a humility that disarmed her. She had spent years surrounded by people who wanted something from her, but this man had given without expecting anything in return. That thought lingered long after he left. Her recovery made headlines, the media calling it a miracle, but Eleanor didn't see it as luck as she saw it as fate. She decided to use her second chance to change not just her company, but herself. She launched a new foundation under Hale Tech, one dedicated to supporting veterans and their families. When the press asked what inspired it, she said, "A man who reminded me what true strength looks like." Jack returned to his quiet life, proud but humble. He never sought fame or reward, but when he received an invitation to the foundation's launch event, his daughter convinced him to go. "You have to, Daddy," she said. "She's your friend now." So he went, standing awkwardly among the suits and cameras. When Eleanor took the stage, she looked radiant, and not as a CEO, but as a woman transformed. Her speech was about kindness, sacrifice, and the power of one good deed to change the world. And when her eyes found Jack in the crowd, they softened. After the event, she approached him. "You came," she said. "Wouldn't miss it," he replied with a grin. They talked for hours that night about war and business, loss and hope, dreams and second chances. What began as gratitude slowly grew into something deeper, something both of them had been missing for years. For Eleanor, Jack represented everything real and grounded that her world of wealth had never offered. For Jack, she was proof that life could give back the light he thought he'd lost. Months later, when they walked together through the hospital where they first met, holding hands, the nurses smiled, recognizing the miracle that had begun with a single act of generosity. In the end, the story of the dying CEO and the single dad veteran wasn't about business or medicine. It was about the human heart. It was proof that kindness still had the power to heal not just bodies, but souls. And as Eleanor looked at Jack and whispered, "You didn't just save my life, you gave me something to live for," he smiled and said, "Maybe we both did." And somewhere in the background, the city lights glowed softly, as if the universe itself was celebrating the quiet miracle born from courage, compassion, and love.